I'm just wondering if you might possibly be at that place in the retreat where you would agree with Jean-Paul Sartre when he said that hell is other people. We're going to have to work harder. Reflecting back decades ago, and that was basically my life. Being on a spiritual path, I came to the realization that hell was my reaction to my perception of other people. And that really changed the whole dynamic of beginning to understand relationship. And that's what I want to talk about this morning, is love and relationship. It's everyone's favorite subject, right? When you realize the projection that you're identifying as other people, then you can really let go. You can actually become empowered to be free. So you can use your triggers as mirrors. Now, not always. I'm not saying that you don't. I'm not speaking in every circumstance practically, obviously, because times you don't want to be with certain people, or you want to have good boundaries or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking, can you hear me okay? I'm talking about when it's workable, when it's grist for the mill, when it really can be fuel for the fire of your transformation. And for the most part, it can be. For the most part, we can really, not with blame and not with judgment, we can learn to work with our relationships as really a relationship with ourselves. And in so doing, begin to contribute to the dissolution of the illusion of the other and of oneself, those subject-object dynamics, and move into the unified field of connection, which is real relationship, where there's love. Love that is free. And I realized I was reflecting, the reason I came up with this, is that I realized that not in a personal sense or in a needing sense, but that what worked in all of my relationships with my teachers was that I was in love with them. Deeply, profoundly. And it was mutual, but it wasn't personal. And I really want to talk about this because there's what we call falling in love at the high level. And I think that's really spiritual practice, actually, is to find out what it means to become unguarded, undefended, and literally unidentified. Free of self. When they talk about no self, they're just saying, they're just meaning not identified. That's not where you live. That's not where your vibrancy is. You're not in a contracted, defended form. You're open. So of course, if you have two people who are in openness, there is just love. Now, as long as the mind doesn't go in there and try to turn it into something and make it mean something, there's no problem. If it does do that, then there's all kinds of problems. So, we crave this as beings, as human beings and spiritual beings. It's really our nature to be unified. It's not a willed personal achievement. It's really what's here when everything else drops away. There's just open-heartedness. So that's the relationship you're working on with yourself, and simultaneously with others. So being in a retreat where there's other people is a helpful mirror at times to notice what's going on in yourself, what you're wanting to push away, what you're wanting to control, what you're wanting to change, what you're wanting to hold on to or get. You know? So use that material instead of saying, instead of just pushing it aside, or use any of that kind of material if you like. If it feels right to do that. And teaching is really when there aren't two people, when there aren't others, when there isn't self and other, then there's what we call teaching, which is just this energetic connectedness. Otherwise, we're still taking ourselves to be somebody. We're still holding on to personal self. We're still looking for something outside of ourself. Some reassurance, some acknowledgement, some, I don't know, fill in the blank. It could be a lot of things. And I'm not saying there isn't a place for wanting and needing and getting those things. Whether it's affection or tenderness or caring. And the human, I'm not speaking, I don't want to confuse you. I don't want to focus on the personal level of relationship. I'm really speaking about the higher level of relationship. Where you let go and you become completely tender, where you open yourself, you put down your guard and notice what's here right now. When you're not being somebody, when you're not identified with being somebody, when you're not identified with wanting someone to be somebody, wanting somebody to be somebody who's going to help you or give you the answer or fix you or take care of you or give you $1 billion. That's my fantasy now. It's a good fantasy. Okay, so I slipped off there a little bit. Got a little ADD, I can't help it. I think on a personal level, a good relationship is where two people are able to communicate in such a way that they understand each other's intentions. And that it's often a challenge to become clear, because we have different languages even. We have different meanings in our language when we say certain things. So often there's misunderstanding. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, and I think there's a lot of projection about what people mean when they don't necessarily mean that. You know? So that's why when on a spiritual path, we learn to not have assumptions. We don't put forward as a filter what we think someone else means, or we notice that we're doing it. Because even here in this environment, that's essential. If you're making meaning of what's happening here, you're in the way. So can you feel that? And that opens the space. So every time you can bring into the space of your own attention, your own projection, your own set of meanings, you facilitate intimacy with yourself and with the other. You get closer. So notice if you're closer or further away. Just look at your body, sense your body. Notice if you're pulled back or if you're feeling really, socially aversive or socially sensitive or, those kinds of things, because that can happen. On retreats, that can get amplified. Notice if that's happening. Be gentle with yourself, of course. Very gentle. And just notice, I want to hide, I don't want to be around people, I don't want to have to interact, or those kinds of things. Or be honest with yourself. These people really bug the hell out of me. Or John bugs the hell out of me. That guy's driving me crazy. I'll have to tell you my line that I always say, if you haven't heard it, is that I've already forgiven myself, and when you've forgiven me, you'll be free. So you can keep working on that one. I'm amused by my limitations, actually. I mean, sometimes they're irritating, but you learn to take care of your limitations. You learn to accept yourself. And love, even on a personal level, is 100% acceptance. It just is. You can clear your own heart of what you want or what you expect or what you didn't get or what you're angry about. But ultimately, love requires 100% acceptance, period. Period. Doesn't mean listen, it doesn't mean that you can't have issues and that you can ask for whatever or even have needs and resentments and expectations and disappointments and all that. But to expect someone else to change or be different isn't love. Love is when you can see another in their limitation, just like you can see yourself in your own limitation. That's why I often say it's so important to give yourself permission to be human and to accept yourself just now. Not when you've got the billion or you got the great job or the hot wife or whatever. Sorry, it's very sexist. Hot boyfriend, I don't care, whatever. Bunny puppet. I want a puppet like that. One of my students gave me that puppet. He knows I like bunnies. Everything is a mirror for you to realize yourself. Everything. And relationships are amazing mirrors for that. There's so much to learn. And just being here around people where you're not talking to them, but you're, looking around or seeing this and that and going, We have to make another rule. Bunny's not strict enough. Just lets them run all over the place. Coming in late, going out to pee, I mean, gee. Can't they just sit here for 2 hours? See, it's funny. Told you this was fun. Yeah. I think one of my greatest challenges being a monk doing as much meditation was not laughing out loud all the time. I got in trouble for that a lot because they didn't like it, but yeah, you've got the greatest entertainment center in the world between your ears. Use it. Use it for good. Yeah. So, relationship with self reflects relationship with other. What we see in others, it's what is it that we're avoiding in ourselves? What we judge in others, are we unable to see that in ourselves? And what is it that we need to look at? Those are just questions. That's not some formula. Those are just suggestions for how to work with the illusion of self and other. Because when you awaken, even when you have a glimpse of awakening, a glimpse of the truth, you're free of all that. None of I've heard it so many times. People are having on retreat and they're like, I couldn't be around anybody. I was really irritated and really sensitive and just wanted to get the hell out of here. And then pop, all of a sudden I looked at a leaf outside and there was a bug on it or something, I don't know. And all of a sudden I just loved everything. I loved everyone. It was so beautiful. I felt so much like I belonged. It was very common. People have these shifts, and those moments are moments of awakened consciousness, where you're what I call tuned in, where you're really available, you're connected. And of course, when we have those moments, we say, well, I want that. Yeah, of course. That's why we're all here, right? And you're facilitating that. The relationship with yourself is incredible, that you're actually here. So I would say, please give yourself gratitude. Very important, supplement to be taking every day. Along with all the other ones you take. Gratitude for, wow, thank you for bringing me here. I know it's hard. I know it's struggling at times and really difficult to feel what's coming up, and it's difficult to be around irritating people and whatever. Whatever's difficult, whatever's pushing your buttons. But give yourself gratitude for the hard work that you've been truly committed to for as long as you have, and many of us have been committed to this for a very good part of our life. So, the heart needs gratitude. It's very much a part of intimacy with oneself and others, is to really feel and express appreciation sincerely. Not just as some platitude, but really deeply felt. So, Cultivate your heart. Cultivate love for yourself, appreciation for yourself. Don't just focus on all the broken, limited, screwed up parts. So what? No, focus on the beauty of who you are and of others. And then you'll start appreciating people in a way and loving them. I'm going to cry. You will love everybody profoundly. That's the gift. That's the ultimate relationship, is that everyone is in your heart. Everyone. So even whatever really, really activates you, that, maybe those are reflecting parts of ourself we can't accept or even see. Because we're all human. We all have all of it. Everything from the darkest of the dark to the brightest of the bright. We've got the full spectrum. So that's the beauty of this incredible journey that we're on together, is to really bring in many, many ways, the extraordinary power and transformative reality of relationship with yourself and with others. I've been working on it my whole life. My own family of origin was a battleground. I know my brother wrote to me after my wedding and said, it's amazing that the power, he said something like that, I should read that email he wrote, I have to go find it, but that it's really a testament to the power of love that we are both married after being raised by the wild animals that raised us. Yeah, it was a lot, and we all have our stuff. We all have our difficult relationships that we either have now or have had in the past. So there is no end to that work, but it will transform you. It really will. And I recommend using it as much as possible. Because anything that is part of where our passion is, that's where the juice is. That's where there's a lot of possibility for transformation. When we really care about something, when it has meaning for us, like for many people here, it has tremendous value and meaning to become free. That no matter what else one has done in one's life, married, children, successful, career, ultimately it's like, that's what I'm really here for. And I think many people here would say that, actually. I would say that. So honor that you have that commitment. And I do. I honor that in you. I profoundly admire and respect that in each and every one of you. And I'm profoundly grateful that you're here opening yourself and listening and allowing this energy field presence to open and undo you and rebalance you, reharmonize you. So you've got a whole new tune. Really, it's like harmonizing and tuning an instrument. In a lot of ways, you could use that metaphor of coming here and being really out of tune. And you don't want to listen to an instrument that's out of tune. But we're tuning ourselves here. We're allowing ourselves to be tuned. We are all instruments of the divine. So, Real relationship is when there's the end of the other, the end of the self. You're just fully being. And that's love. It's the high level love where you're just fully connected. That's what I meant when I said I was tuning into those teachers. It was just, we weren't separate. That's all. And love is when you're not separate. It's not like some unhealthy, codependent, no boundary thing. That's not what I'm talking about. But there aren't any boundaries in the big realm. That's a concept. That's why you can feel someone across the planet. Literally. No one can explain that. Not the smartest scientist that ever lived. Can't measure it. Of course not. It's immeasurable. Love is infinite. You can feel it. It's beautiful. It's just like, oh, thank you. It's like mana. It is nourishment. It's the nourishment that we all deeply, profoundly long for as human beings. Not the love that's addictive, not the love that's attached. That's part of our human experience. But I'm talking about the vast love. So. That's what you're realizing here. That's the icing on the cake. You're learning to love. And it's the most beautiful and difficult and worthwhile trip there is. Because you can get everything else in this life, and if you don't have that, you're not fulfilled. So hang in there. 3 magic words. Hang in there. Tell yourself, hang in there, honey. Hang in there. Make nice on yourself. I know it's hard. I know you're having a hard time. Be sweet to yourself. You need it. You need to mother yourself lovingly, okay? You need to nurture yourself. You've all got that in you to give. That's why I bring the little bunnies and the little mouses and other things, because it reflects your own internal mothering and tendering. Whenever we see little puppies, these things, YouTube and like 4 trillion hits of some kitty. Like, this isn't obvious what we want. It's like, it's the most important thing. Awakening or spiritual power without that is dangerous at best and to be avoided, quite frankly. It's not integrated. So you want to really heal your human and integrate all the parts that have been damaged and wounded and traumatized and rejected and bring them all back in and love them all and let them all transform and fill you up so you can really be fully who you are and have always been and wanted to be. And then you'll live fully. Then whether you work in your garden or paint or do your accounting work or run your school or, travel, whatever you do, draw your architectural drawings, free the world of plastic, whatever your trip is. Sell subscriptions. When you live open-heartedly, your life will be so filled, so fulfilled. I can't even begin to tell you. And that's really that's the fullness of our work here. Not just enlightenment. That's yes, and bring in the whole human with it. That's essential.